something that I really believe in is, you know, your business. You always thought, I don't know how it works, but you are not your customer. So it's like quite important to go to every target group, open up your space, and then you can be the Hebrew customer centricity function that you have to be. So that's something that's, for me, it's quite important. Hi everyone, here is Désirée Mettraux, and this is the future of insurance.
Hey everyone, I'm Rob Savitsky from Duck Creek Technologies, a provider of SaaS core systems for P&C insurers, and I'm the host of our new podcast series, Conversations on the Creek. In each episode, we interview our partners from across the InsurTech ecosystem about industry trends, innovative technology solutions insurers are using today, and where P&C insurers may be headed in the future. So listen and subscribe to Conversations on the Creek on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and by visiting duckcreek.com/podcasts/partner.
Désirée, thank you for joining me. It's great to sit down with you. We had a chance to get to know each other a little bit in a round table we did with Camelot, but it's good to get some one-on-one time with you. So thanks for making the chance.
Thank you, Brian, for the invitation. I'm really excited to talk about about the future of insurance.
So for listeners, obviously lots in the US who don't know OCC, your company, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what that is. And I'd love to hear about you and your story and how you ended up in the position that you're in.
Yeah, of course. So OCC is the market leader in Germany, Switzerland, and Austria for the insurance of classic cars. It's an MGA, a classical MGA. It's built over 37 years ago. And if you know, Hagerty OCC is like the same in Europe. And we have already 110 employees, and we did in the last 3 years, we did a strongly transformation into a digital company, and also did quite a hardcore cultural change. And yeah, it's good to see how you can engage also like a traditional niche. A lot of people always say it's like a old white man place, and go digitally and bring new process, new thinking mindsets in it, and you see like how it grows, and the market gets bigger and bigger every day, because there are every day there are new cars that go into this whole classic car scene. And it's quite an interesting niche.
And for anyone who follows the auto space, they'll know car prices keep going up, new and used, but also if you follow the classic space, the auctions, there's always a new record set. There's just one the other day, and I can't remember what the car was, but it's a space that continues to grow. Yes, because cars age, and so they then qualify as classics, but it seems like there's more and more activity on the collector car scene, the classic car scene. And of course, as cars get more expensive as they age, then you get doubly classic. You get newer cars that qualify because they're so expensive. But it's an interesting. I'm a car nut, so that's all. It's getting me all excited.
Okay, let's talk about that, Brian. No, I think it's quite interesting, because I mean, classic cars as itself, it's a niche. Yeah. But in this niche, you have a lot of different target groups. I mean, you have like quite not expensive cars, like you have a Volkswagen Käfer, so a classic, or a bully bus, but you also have like the Mercedes 300 SL for 1.5 million. So you find everything. And as you said, there are a lot of more collectors, and in the last years, the prices sometimes in special cars, it's going crazy. It's like a little bit you can compare with the whole art collecting of pictures. And so there are a lot of really also high-end collectors from the whole world that they're looking for exactly this car, and they're going through the world and look after that. And the prices are sometimes really insane for me, especially if you see there like something very special. It's like something like a Ferrari 250 GTO, and then you see this car for $39 million, and you say, okay, it's a car, yeah, it's a nice car, it's an old car, but sometimes it's quite not for the mind. It's quite weird to see how much worth it is and from where it comes. So that's quite interesting to look. And I think in the coming years, there will be still a lot going on in this market.
Yeah. And they are treated like works of art. They're not driven with much regularity, if at all. They're cared for, they're temperature control. I mean, it really is, I think, for that kind of classic car, absolutely the art comparison holds. But then you also have people who just have old cars that are rare these days and interesting or hold a historical value to them. It was the car their parents had, or they learned to drive in, or whatever. There's a lot of old Volkswagens probably in Europe that qualifies that.
Yeah, and it's also like the remembering the childhood. If you have like sitting in the car of the grandparents and you're driving through, I don't know, to the holidays, and you will have this feeling about this child, and it's this whole nostalgia.
Yeah.
And it's also like freedom. The people want to have freedom. They want to be traveling individual, and they want to go do it their own way. And with a classic car, you have really this old feeling. I love to drive with old cars. But if you look the other side, green planet, it's also sometimes the match is not really there. But I think it's doing both, but do it wisely.
Yeah. Well, so how did you end up doing this? How do you end up?
I love to drive in a car, but I'm really not a car person. I love to ride my bicycle, so that's sometimes a little bit also not traditional. So I'm over 20 years. I'm in the insurance industry, and as young woman, I had the chance to I worked at a big Swiss insurance company, and then I had the chance to take over the whole motor part.
Wow.
And so I had like always in my life, the whole 20 years, I always worked with car insurance, classic car insurance. I built up my own startup with a camper sharing platform, and it was always like something with cars. Even I'm not like a real car person, but for me it's like quite interesting. I mean, quite everyone had a car, and they have the need to have a car to drive to work or stuff like that. And for me, it was always like I was driven to because I really have to believe to make things better in a digital way, also in the view of the customers. And the car insurance, it's like something, or you have to have it because you wanna drive, but it has to go very easily and not be complicated. And that was always something that drives me in this whole insurance thing, and also with this car insurance thing. And so I always was going to another stations and another topics, and so, and now I'm like 3 years at OCC,
It's interesting when I think about your space and what you came from in the more mainstream motor insurance or auto insurance space, more commoditized, a lot of competition, very low engagement in the product, but you have the obligation to have coverage helping overcome that engagement issue. When you move to classic cars, it's not about the obligation at all. I mean, if you want the car on the road, you need the coverage or you want to register it, but that's not why they're buying it. There is an engagement. I mean, like you mentioned Haggerty, they have a tremendous relationship and community of their insureds. It's a completely different space, and it doesn't have the same, there isn't 1,000 insurers all vying for that same underpriced policy. So it's completely different dynamics. I'm so curious about how you move from one to the other and maybe benefit from the engagement side, but the other dynamics are really quite different. Did it feel that way when you got into it?
Yeah, for sure, because it's all about emotions, it's all about community, and it's all about be expert and also show your customer that you also love your product and the
Mhm.
cars, and that you really understand what you're doing. So, but in fact, if you go quite straight to the insurance part, insurance policy for car is insurance policy, and you have the framework and everything, what you have to do an offer, and then you have to make the contract, and then you have claims and everything, the whole process. It's quite similar,
Mm.
but maybe you have to do a little bit more better also in the engagement with the customer, and also like in the customer interactions, also with the whole customer centricity, because there is another approach from the old timer customer than the normal car customer. I think that's the difference. And if you like really into it, the whole classical car insurance, then it's like it's for me personal. It's like a nice road, and also a personal grow to go further of that what you have built before,
Yeah.
and so it's quite interesting. And you see also that if you are a good community builder, and you have a good content, and you push this on with, we have also a lot of things with shop, with merch, and TikTok, and all that stuff that that builds trust in the community. It really works, and that's is something that's quite pushing me further to have more success.
Yeah. Well, so you said a few words that challenge what I'm about to ask you, and I love that. It feels like it's a space that doesn't have to have the same digitization and modernization that the mainline space has, because efficiency is less of an issue. You still need it, but it's not like everything has to be robotized or automated. Um, but you said TikTok, you said merch, you know, you're using words that are more about a digital engagement, and you said you were on this journey to digitize 3 years ago. So that sounds like just before everyone else was forced to do it. So even thinking ahead, is this a space where there's an excuse not to do the sort of digitization because it's, well, this is very personal and it's about that unique vehicle? We're not just underwriting in the masses and you're part of this huge portfolio. So it is personal. I mean, I heard this in some high net worth spaces where it's like, we need to sit down with our clients and we're not going to automate, and we're not going to do, you know, the third party data and everything. We're going to get one-on-one. Do you see that holding this space back? Or, I mean, it sounds like you've moved ahead despite those potential sort of arguments not to do these things. Is that the case?
I think you have to like find the right path. And for me, it's always like especially in this high-end niche, it's not about the digital only, it's about digital first.
Mm.
And you have to give your customer a choice.
Mm.
And you cannot see the only choice is you can call me. So that's not a choice. Choice is a buffet of like opportunities, and he can choose what he wants. But if you go and see like the growth of OCC, I mean, with over 100 people and a highly grow portfolio, you cannot sit there and do everything analog, because the cost would be increased and it wouldn't work. And so that's what it's what I told before. You have like this high-end client with this 300 SL. Yeah, there you have to sit down, talk with the people, and have like a special solution. But for the Volkswagen Käfer, I mean, there you can go fully online. I mean, and there is also like the new generation is coming, that they are not still the people of 60 and older. That's people like you and me, because they bought the cars new, or they get it from the parents, from the grandparents. So that's also like a new generation. And this we are like all in this generation, and we have like the belief and also the need to do the things when we want digitally. And so that's like the way that I believe that's the right way. But in the beginning, as I joined OCC and had like my digital master plan in my head. Everyone was looking at me and told me it will not work. And
everyone internally, or people just around and about? So in the company,
internally and externally, it was always like, this woman, she's young, she has like this digital mindset, and she's like, so they were all like a little bit okay. But I mean, also COVID paid it out, so that was like a little bit a lucky punch. But I think if you don't go with the time, you go with the time. So you always have to keep that in your mind. And OCC was like a little bit the Kodak, you know, quite over 30 years, really successful, but don't make it like also the digital way. And then sometimes there will be the change, and the success and the growth will go away.
Yeah.
And there is another thing that's quite important. OCC is highly recommended in the community. So, and the community people, that's our people. They're going to get-togethers. They go to large conventions and stuff like that. But the market is quite bigger, much more bigger. There are also like classic car lovers. They wouldn't go to the convention. They aren't in a club. They don't want to be a part in this community. And our strategy was like to get out of the inner circle and go to the outer circle. And then now it's like the solution that these people see, okay, there is something special for my classic car. It might be good. And so you get new target groups. And that's was something that pushes our success.
Yeah. It's interesting you see that in the high net worth homeowner space, where yes, there are high net worth homeowners insurers, but the largest high net worth homeowners insurers are the mainline homeowners carriers, not the specialists. And it's just because everyone else who isn't in that circle or just sort of graduated into that, the person who had that classic, whatever that now is truly a classic car, but it's just their old car that they love, that they, drive around now and then. They're not in that community, so they wouldn't have known. And that's a tremendous growth opportunity, unless you're too elitist to see it. Unless you say, well, no, you're not good enough for us, which is just.
And I think it's like also like, for me, it's also, if you have like in this niche, a part of this high network, you have a lot more targets in the other part. And for me, it's like a quite good recipe is like to be a specialist insurer for everyone. So, and not just only for this and this and only high net, because I think this makes you also like slow down and have really the focus on the customer, and not only high network other customers. So it's more than that, and brings you also something that I really believe in is, sometimes if you are like in your work and your business, you always thought, I don't know how it works, but you are not your customer. So it's like quite important to go to every target group, you open up your space, and then you learn, and then like you can be this hybrid customer centricity function that you have to be. So that's something that's, for me, it's quite important.
That was something you said in the roundtable discussion, or the whatever it was that we did a few months ago. You said those words, remember, you're not the customer. And I've used that. I stole it from you, but I've used that in a few talks since then, because it's something I think a lot of us forget. Is we go down the path, we've been in it forever, we know what we need to do, and we just build it without stopping and thinking, wait, but I'm not the actual customer. I just built what I thought would work, or what our constraints would allow for. And then we wonder why it's not living up to the hopes we had for it, because it wouldn't resonate with what people actually wanted.
I think that's also like a little bit industry problem. If you have like the big insurance companies, and you have the product management, and you always go and think about from inside. Oh, maybe it would be good we make this product, or maybe the customers need that and that. And then you push out on the market. And 20 years ago, you had success with that, but now in these times it will not work anymore, because the people has the possibility to go online. We have Wikipedia and everything. I mean, the knowledge is here, and then you can rethink. Okay, do I really need that? So sometimes it's a little bit too much information everywhere. That's also like the opposite, but I think so. It's quite important to have this outside in view, and sometimes I'm quite terrible about this view, and I get a little bit angry if you don't change the view of also on the view on the customer, and I think that's something that the whole industry can do it better.
Yeah. I think some of us use our competitors as a proxy for it's like, well, they're doing this, so we need to do it too. It's like, but did they actually talk to customers? You don't know. So just because someone else is doing it doesn't mean that's the right answer either. Or maybe you're not doing it right.
You have to find like your own belief, and with your own customers, and then it work out. But I think we are like in the beginning of a lot of more movement in the industry, also with COVID, and for me, we are in the beginning of the digitalization in the industry. So it will be the next 5-10 years will be quite interesting where we end, what's the end game. So.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's a really, really exciting time, and none of us has a clue of what's actually going to play out, but that's what makes it exciting, and that creates opportunity if we're willing to engage in it. I did want to ask about that a little bit, in particular in your space, and you and I talked about this before we started recording, but I don't know which dynamic is stronger, where in your space you don't necessarily have, like I said, hundreds or thousands or whatever of competitors who are all pushing that you have to keep, digitizing and new products and whatever. It's a smaller group, more specialized. So maybe that creates less competitive pressure to keep changing and doing new things. But the flip side is the margins are very different. It's a much more engaged space. You have more access to your customers. They're willing to sit down and talk and really share with you and make you something they're actively choosing to engage in and give feedback to. So maybe that allows for more innovation and more experimentation, and there's margin there to support those kind of investments. How does your space in particular, with collector cars and the high value vehicles, how does that shape up going forward from an innovation standpoint? Is it more engaged than the mainline market, or is it a bit more separated, or it's playing out but in a different way?
I think you have like more opportunities to engage more. Also, we have like a club. So you can be a member of the oldtimer club, OCC. Yeah. We have like a merch shop, and we do really pushing out content. We do a lot of TikTok. We're using a lot of all of channels. So you have, because we have this emotional content, and there is tons of videos and car markets. You can push it, and then that gives you this emotional feeling. And that's also like the trust building for the customer, because they see they understand something for what I feel when I'm driving with my car alongside the Sundowner. So that's quite an opportunity, but it's also for me innovation opportunity to engage more. Like, also, I don't like this word ecosystem, because it's like a buzzword. Everyone talk about that, but for us, it's like it's now like the recipe to cook. Okay, I mean, we do the insurance, but people have the car in his mind. Then he goes to Google and he look about what would it cost. Then you have all the marketplaces where you can sell. Then you have like the the people that they're looking at the car and with the value and stuff, and you have like this whole value chains, and we are now in to take the opportunity to build that bigger and push it in the beginning. It's also like this whole point of sale and embedded and what
I would say it's a huge embedding opportunity.
What you can do, but I think it's always good that everything that you do, all also with innovation and stuff like that, all what you do is important, that pays out to your targets and feed your community.
Yeah.
And about innovation, there is also like, I'm a little bit difficult with that word, because what does innovation means, and I think you only can be as innovation as your as your customer allows you to be innovative. I mean, I don't think if our next Volkswagen Käfer customer needs a blockchain policy. So I don't know, but if we can build him like a GPS tracker for car thief and put that in an app or stuff like that, that will be good for him. So I think you have always to move innovation around your customer group, and sometimes I feel it's like a little bit too overestimated.
Yeah. Well, I mean, on that point, if you did something with connected car features and the vast majority of your insured vehicles aren't connected and never will be, and I mean, if it's in the US, it's the average age of a car, I think, is 12.8 years. So if every car being built today was connected, which they're not, but if everything was, it's still over a dozen years until the majority of the fleet has become connected. And, same with autonomy or anything else. It's a long time. Europe, I think the average age of car is a little bit younger, but then your cars are significantly older than that. So that sort of innovation, like you're saying, that's not relevant. Maybe you do a dongle or an app or something else, but to partner with BMW on, their connected features isn't going to impact your product set anytime soon.
Not yet. You don't know what it's like in 10 or 20 years with all also like the green initiatives, and is it allowed to drive cars like that in city because of the pollution and stuff like that. I mean, there must be like maybe in near future innovation. What can you do with e-fuels or stuff like that? I mean, there are already few cars that rebuild on electricity. So
you can convert.
There are other collectors that strongly against that, because then it's not
moderation.
Original. It's not so
a huge. It's like politics, but in the collective world, is do you restore or do you modify it?
And so that's something that you have to watch out and look what can you do. But I think, I mean, it's what we have seen in Germany last year. There was this flood catastrophe with the water, and that hits us at some parts, hits us also because there are a lot of vehicles in the garage, and then the water is coming, and then you have a total crash. And I mean, that's also something that we have to look for innovation. What can we do like for something like that? So where we have the signal systems and how do you connect it with the weather situation and give the customers like just like a silly WhatsApp message and be careful, the water is coming or stuff like that. So I mean, that's our points that maybe could be very interesting in the near future.
Yeah, it's more proactive. The other thing I wanted to ask you about before we go is with embedding. One of the conversations is if you're embedding insurance into, say, the auction sale, do you lose any of the brand affinity, any of the engagement, because it's the auctioneer who's doing the sale, and And it could even go as far as it looks and feels like it's their insurance and it's part of the process. Then do you have that same connection? Does that mean embedded is a non-starter for you, or does it just mean we need to navigate it differently than, Zurich or someone might, where they're perhaps less concerned with whether their brand is front and center as a specific purchase someone, intentionally made?
Well, for me, it's also like a way to go, because in the end, also if the claim situation, hopefully it comes not, is there, then it's also like the risk carrier is like OCC with everything on the back, and then it's just front. And I think embedded insurance is a great opportunity to push more your book and have and engage also more customers, and that's also like something of the ecosystem. You also have to do what pays out to your targets and bring you further. So there is nothing that I would see that we don't do this.
Yeah. I love the openness, and that's what struck me in our first conversation, is just recognizing there's a lot of things the industry's done and feels like it needs to do, and maybe we could do things differently, and we need to ask the customers, and we need to think more openly, because there's people who swear off embedded for that reason, that, well, then where's my brand? Or, they didn't sit down with me and I didn't have a chance to really tell them about why we're great. It's like, well, they didn't care. They were willing to buy. As I said, like, they came to the checkout with the shirt in their hand and their money in the other hand. And instead of taking their money and selling them the shirt, you walk them back into the store and start talking about something they weren't interested in. But your openness to different ways of working in a space that has been very traditional and has done very well being traditional, I think is refreshing. And you guys have done well the past few years. Grown nicely and expanded your market, and that's great to see. And I know Dr. Robin Kira would be very excited with all the TikTok engagement.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Brian. Yeah, it was quite an interesting interesting time, and it was a lot of work the past years, and so it will be in the future. But for me, there is always like one recipe: just do it. I don't overthink the things, and could we and should we and what and if, and so I mean, you have to try figure it out, you have to test it out, and you really have to have this own belief that it works, and then it will. And so here we are, and I'm very excited to looking forward what 2022 brings us to OCC, brings the whole industry, and I'm really looking forward that we are able to see each other in person.
Yeah. Désirée, it's really good to sit down with you. I appreciate that. And congratulations on the success that you and the OCC team have had. I do watch a lot of your videos. I feel like I would want to come work there. I've seen a lot of the recruiting videos, and I'm like, well, I want to be a part of that. It's great. It's great to see. And yeah, I think I would end up being a terrible employee, because I get stuck on every file, and I just like start to focus in on that one car and be like, you've done nothing the whole day. It's like, but look at this car. It's awesome. Thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Thank you, Brian. All the best for you.
It was great to sit down with Désirée. I did, mention I had this chance to be in an event with her, and was really just excited by her take on change in the industry, because my sense of the space she was in is, this isn't a space that's going to digitize and take in all the new tools and think about telematics and all these other things, and maybe some of those things, but they really were, OCC was really engaging in so much change, and the team really embraced it, and she had this energy for it. And I agree with her, this almost like strong point of view around, you're not the customer. You need to talk to them directly and hear from them and actually listen to what they're saying. And that does lead you to be a lot more open to things that maybe you would have sworn off before, because it's not how we worked in the past, or it's not what we can do with what we have in front of us. Maybe sometimes you need some new things in front of you, or new partners, or you need to think about how you're using those assets and those resources differently. So I very much appreciate Désirée's take on all that. So hopefully that has you all thinking about, it doesn't matter what niche or segment you're in, there are things you can do differently. OCC has had a ton of success with a lot of the changes that they've made, with the way they're thinking about the market, the tools they've deployed, the way that they're working, more digital, more remote. It's a company that never had remote before. And now obviously everyone's got remote now, but they're so much more open to it and recognizing, we need to empower people to do the best that they can. And that energy is really apparent if you look into any of what OCC is putting out. And it's quite fun. Yes, it tends to be in a language other than English. That's okay. It's still fun to watch. But they're doing a great job engaging across different channels with lots of different content and media, and taking advantage of the fact that they have a population of insureds who genuinely care about those assets and probably are more engaged with the insurance product. But they didn't leave it there. The team at OCC is working to build that engagement further. And that's a bit of insight that, I mentioned Robin Cura. He tells everyone OCC is living that. You still can engage even if you're in a lower engagement space. So, maybe they're just the tip of the spear on that. We can take some examples, some guidance, some insight from OCC. So check out some of their social media. You might be surprised. It might give you some ideas about things you can do in your business as well. With that, thank you to Désirée for making some time and sharing her journey and what OCC has been working on in their space. Thank you to Duck Creek for sponsoring this episode and a bunch of other episodes. They've been a great supporter of the show. And to all of you for tuning in, remember, like the show, share the show. If you're on YouTube, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. I would be honored if you would rate the show, review it. That helps build more knowledge and awareness of the show and get the word out, raises the show up in their algorithms so more people can describe it. But the best thing you can do after all those things is just send it to someone. If there's someone in the industry that you think would benefit from Désirée's episode, or maybe one of the other great guests I've had on, share it with them. Let's get more thoughts going. I share episodes from time to time when I see people on LinkedIn talking about a subject that I know we've had a great conversation with one of my guests about. I'll pop the episode in the comments and people are like, oh, wow, I didn't think about it this way, or that was so helpful. You'd be surprised how hearing from others in the industry can spark new thoughts for all of us. So I encourage you, spread the word that way. Just send them to future-of-insurance.com/podcast, and they can see the whole wealth, the whole library of the great interviews that I've had with people in lots of different contexts, lots of different roles at many different companies. So with that, I will say goodbye. Thank you all. Thank you to Upbeat Music for the music that you're listening to right now. And I will bring you a new episode next week. Take care, everyone.